and you and I had to sit on a couch next to each other. I don't know if you remember this. And I'm sitting there next to Jimmy Vaught on this couch going, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. This is not... Welcome back, guys, to Cases and Cocktails. This is episode number 26, and we've got a very special guest today here with us, Jimmy Vaught. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good. Glad to have you. You excited about doing this?
Very excited.
This is what, your 1800th podcast today?
Well, not that many, but I've done a few before.
That's fair. I'm here as well with my beautiful wife, Janice. How you doing?
Fabulous. How are
Good.
you?
I'm excited. You excited about this one?
I am excited
Good.
about this one.
All right. Before we get started, guys, as always, we've got a cocktail today. This one's got a little bit of fruit attached to it. So my beautiful wife, why don't you tell us what we're drinking, and then we'll go from there.
It's a watermelon chili lime cooler.
Okay.
So there's watermelon juice, tequila, lime, agave, and some syrup.
Nice. Yeah. Jimmy, I got to ask, favorite adult beverage?
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really more probably margaritas.
Yeah.
But I'm more of a beer and wine drinker, not really
That's fair.
hard liquor that much. So.
Yeah. I will tell you that I enjoy tequila. My beautiful wife, she enjoys bourbon.
Okay.
So she's the bourbon drinker in the house, which is fine. It's nice because then that way too she doesn't drink mine, I don't drink hers. Yeah. Right?
Works out perfectly, yeah.
Prevents some infighting.
I just have to make sure I keep bourbon in the house. That's the thing. Here, let's try these things and see how they go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to you, Jimmy. All right. I can do that. I don't really taste the chili on that. More watermelon. You?
It's good.
That's good. I like that. I can do that. I'll tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to enjoy that while we do this. How about that? Is that fair? All right. So first and foremost, before we get started, super excited for the opportunity. I mean this sincerely. Super excited about the opportunity, not only to have you on this podcast, but to have you come and join us in doing what we do. And we announced this earlier, but you are going to come hang out and be a part of what we do. And it is an absolute, I mean it sincerely, absolute honor, absolute a pleasure to have the opportunity to have you come hang out with us. So thank you, first and foremost. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited about doing it.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, I
Good.
really am.
I appreciate that. It means a lot to us. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a natural fit. Jillian obviously came over back in October of last year, and so this is something that's going to be great for us. And for the people at home that don't know, you've been doing this for how long now?
Total?
Yeah. Look at it.
About 44, 45 years.
I have to ask this question right now. Sure. This has been asked. You started 44 years ago.
Yeah.
44 years ago, did you think you'd be on a podcast talking about this?
No way. No way.
At all, right?
I mean, the internet was just its infancy then, you know?
That is fantastic. Have you always done family law?
No.
Okay.
I've actually, some might say I can't hold a job because I moved around a lot.
I feel like that wasn't on the resume.
But I clerked for a judge in the Texas Supreme Court for a year. I worked for a civil firm with Doug Hearn. I don't know if you remember Doug Hearn, doing various things. And then I worked for another insurance, like a firm that did some insurance work.
Okay.
Then I actually ended up being the staff attorney for Jack Hightower in the Texas Supreme Court for about 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
And so, and then at that point, I moved out into family law.
Why family law?
Well, because, a couple reasons. First of all, I had an opportunity to, someone offered me a job, which I said, yeah, okay.
I'll do it.
Yeah, I do it. And, also the whole insurance thing, which, that was during tort reform.
Yeah.
And so it's like wreaking havoc on all the insurance, work. Which,
litigation.
yes.
Yeah.
And so, not that I really didn't have a passion for the insurance work, to be honest with you. But, it but it was fine. I mean, it's something different. And so, and then I went to work for Ted Terry, and then moved up then.
When you got into family law, were you surprised at how different it is? I mean, insurance work to family law has got to be a stark contrast.
Yeah, it's pretty different. You know, I mean, I had the opportunity though to work with Ted Terry, who, with all his personal issues, was an extremely good lawyer.
Right.
And I felt like I worked there about 4.5 years. It was like a graduate degree in family law.
Family,
'Cause, I mean, it's like he had really high level cases, and man, it was like,
Here we go.
Here we go,
Here we go. Yeah.
What about family law made that job stick?
well, you know, I have a passion for it, quite frankly. I have a passion for helping people.
Yeah.
It's very challenging.
Yeah.
You know, because insurance law so lots of law. It's like here's the law. Here it is. Like family law. You got to know about all
the
everything.
things.
Everything. And so, I mean, I really enjoyed that. And you know, it's really good. I mean, you know, it's really good to help people too.
Well,
through a hard time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that we enjoy doing it is because we feel like we can help people.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the biggest thing. And helping someone, helping someone isn't getting them everything they wanted or whatever it is. Right. Helping people is a lot of different spaces. Right. To help people along that way. And so I think, it's interesting, and I'm glad you said that. I think it's interesting because I think the people that I know and that I recognize inside of our little sandbox, which is family law in the state of Texas, you kind of see the ones that are passionate about it. You see the ones that do want to help people, and oftentimes they're the ones that they're the easiest to work with on the other side, right? Because they're passionate, and they're passionate, right? And they're going to do a really good job for their client. We're going to do a really good job for our client. And that doesn't mean that we're enemies for life, right? It just means that they're passionate and you don't take it personal and that sort of stuff. And so that's my experience.
Yeah, I mean, me too. And I always tell clients, it's like, spouse hasn't gotten or the opposing party hasn't gotten a lawyer. I said, I hope they get someone good.
Good, 100%.
Absolutely. And they kind of
Yeah.
are taken aback by that. Well, why would you want someone good? Because then they give you realistic expectations and you can actually work with them as a professional. And it's not adversarial outside of the courtroom.
Yeah. And I always say that bad lawyers don't know what they don't know.
Yes.
Good lawyers do.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's there's nothing worse too in trying to explain to your client that, hey, look, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is how this happens.
Yeah.
I've done this for X number of years. I understand the other side's not doing that. I don't have an explanation for that because I'm not on the other side, but at some point we're going to get back here. We may have to take a long way to get there, but unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I can't make them be a better lawyer, and it's the worst. It's the absolute worst, right? When you're in a space when you're having to explain to your client, I know that this is taking a long time, or we're having to jump through hoops, but it has nothing to do with you or your case. And there's really not much we can do about it. We just sort of have to kind of fight through it and do the things. You obviously know that.
Yeah.
We've done that. All right. So a couple things. A couple things. First and foremost, board certified.
Yeah.
But not just one, but two.
Yes.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yes.
I didn't know you could be double board certified.
And in family law and civil appellate law.
It's fantastic.
So,
And how long have you been board certified?
well, civil appellate law, 1988, I think.
Okay.
And family law, I think 2002.
Okay. All right. What part of family law do you enjoy the most? I know you do all of it. You do from prenup to appeals, right? So we do all of it. But what do you like the most?
I do enjoy most. I do enjoy most of it. It's all real different.
Yeah.
I mean, a prenup is different than litigation than an appeal.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I enjoy all of it.
Yeah. And let's break that down a little bit. When we talk about prenuptial agreements,
Yes.
premarital agreements, that's something that you enjoy doing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, it's kind of like it's kind of like you're helping people.
Yeah.
And most of the time, not always, both parties are on board with the prenup.
Prenup, right?
Occasionally, they're not. Yeah.
It's a surprise.
Yeah.
Right.
But just helping people, work through that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And when they come to you to do a prenuptial or a premarital agreement, and they're both on board, tell me how that process typically plays out.
Well, normally, obviously, I'm just going to represent one of them.
Right.
And so usually I talk to that person, find out what they're thinking about. Usually, if they're kids, they're from a prior relationship, or kind of if they want to share a household account. And then basically I'll do a draft and then get them to do the assets and liabilities from each side. And they'll send it to the other lawyer to look at.
And then that way y'all can put it together, negotiate all the pieces to it. And then once that's done, then basically one singular document is circulated for signature.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the unique thing about prenups is you really have to always do an independent waiver of financial disclosure.
Yeah.
And it's signed immediately before, and then you sign the prenup.
Right. So that way everything's disclosed or supposed to have been disclosed.
Well, and the disclosure is like, I've disclosed everything, and if I haven't, then I'll waive it. Yeah,
that sort of stuff. All right. Litigation, obviously, we talk about that all the time, and in the course of my career, I've had cases against you.
Yep.
You've had cases against me. We've worked together. We both enjoy doing the litigation part and that sort of stuff. I gotta tell this quick story, Jimmy.
Okay.
And you may not remember this.
Uh-oh.
You may not remember this. No, it's a good one.
Okay.
It's a good story. This was probably 2013.
Okay.
That my beautiful wife and I had been doing it for about 2-3 years at the time. Okay. We'd moved
baby
down.
lawyers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. And I had this case, and I'll never forget. I had this case, and you were already on it.
Okay.
And we go, and I think there was a TRO or something was going on. And so we were supposed to have a hearing down at the old courthouse in Travis County.
Yep.
And so I get down there, and it was like at 1:30 or something. It was a weird setting. It was it was odd. So I go down there, and at the time I didn't know anybody hardly in the community, but I Googled you at that point. Obviously, I was like, oh my God, I've got this. He's been doing it fucking forever, right? And I'm like, I'm about to, so like,
he doesn't often get nervous.
So,
he was a little nervous.
And back then, for me, the way that we learned was you got a case and then you just read and did everything you could in preparation.
Yep.
So that literally, like, I knew every rule, I knew every, I had it all like shoved in, right? To go and whatever we were doing. I don't even remember. I think we were fighting over an extension of a TRO.
Okay.
What it was. So we go, and I'm all prepared to go make an argument, right? And I think I even had a brief. I think I had stuff, right? And we get there, and the judge, I can't remember the judge, an older lady, is what I'll say. I can't remember.
Margaret Cooper, maybe?
Might have been.
Okay.
I don't remember. And she's like, well, let's just go do this in chambers. And I was like, oh my. I'm like, okay. And I remember I met you for the very first time on a set of stairs, right, in Travis County.
Yep.
And so I'm like, okay. And I shit you not, we go into chambers, and she pulls up a chair, and you and I had to sit on a couch next to each other. I don't know if you remember this. And I'm sitting there next to Jimmy Vaught on this couch going, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. This is not what I had prepared, right? And I'm just sitting there like, I don't know.
Do I give them the brief
right,
now?
I have no idea. And so that was my very first time to meet you. And obviously I remember that. But more importantly, you were extremely nice then.
Yes,
We've had cases since then. My point of going through all that was one to tell you that's my first memory of dealing with you. I want to talk a little bit. I've had multiple cases with you since then, and I've dealt with multiple cases in which you had been involved in, both on the same side and different sides, because you have done the appeals.
Yeah.
And you've got you do a lot of appeals,
Yes.
right? Being board certified in civil appellate law and board certified in family law, this is sort of something that you're not only capable of doing, but you do a lot of.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about how you got into that to start with.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with when I clerked for the judges of the Texas Supreme Court, particularly when I worked for Judge Hightower. I mean, we wrote everything was in writing, of course, and so we had I developed a lot of writing skills and argumentative skills, and then basically when I got out, I'd done some appeals before,
right?
But then I got out, and particularly when I went to work for Ted Terry, I started doing a lot there because a lot of people got referred me cases,
right?
And so just kind of has developed from there.
Yeah.
And obviously I speak a lot. Most about appeals, but not necessarily at the family law seminars. And so I'm actually pretty well known. And there's only about maybe two of the lawyers in the area that are board certified in civil appellate law and also do family law.
And do family law, yeah. It's and the nice part about an appeal, you do them statewide.
Yeah.
You get them from all over the state.
Yeah.
And like you said, not a lot of people that are board certified as civil appellate law and do family law. Definitely not a lot of people that are double board certified. Yeah. I only know one human being that has more certifications than you, and it's a particular associate judge in Hays County, Texas.
Very familiar with it.
You worked with Judge Hays.
Yes. Yes, we worked together at Ted Terry's office.
Yeah, I was going to say, y'all were former colleagues. Yes. So you're that's the only other person I know that's more.
Me too. I don't know. Yeah.
You're not trying to get a third one, are you?
God, no. No.
That's fair. I want to talk a little bit about doing appeals and that sort of stuff, and I want to talk a little bit about the appellate process. Appeals are a little bit different than litigation, obviously. Yep. Tell me kind of what is that? How do you, when you get a new appellate case in, kind of tell me how that process goes for you?
Well, I mean, the initial thing is, first of all, finding out when the decree or order was signed, because everything starts from the day of signature.
Yeah.
And so, that way I can do requests for findings of fact, motions for new trial, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's hard to, I know we talked about this earlier, it's hard to evaluate appeal.
Right.
Because you don't have the record.
Right.
And you're relying on your client's
recollection,
sometimes not 100% accurate, and so a lot of times, so then basically, and as far as the motion for new trial, people always said, "Well, we'll get a setting on that." I said, "You don't understand. Judges hate motion for new trials.
Right? They
don't want to do a do-over.
Right?
And I've only had one granted. That wasn't a default judgment case.
Yeah.
But and so it's like, it's even I actually didn't want it granted.
Of course not.
I filed it, and the visiting judge had been the one, and they judge is like, took the motion, put order granting, and decided at the end of the motion. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Wait,
what?
I didn't really want that.
I didn't really want that client in litigation, but
here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And so then essentially you file a notice of appeal from usually 90 days after the order signed. Yeah. And then basically you order the record from the court reporter. It gets sent to the Court of Appeals and order the clerk's record, which is the documents basically, and the pleadings and the things like that. And once both those are filed with the Court of Appeals, you have 30 days to write a brief.
Yeah.
The courts almost always will give an extra 30 days. Mm-hmm. And then the other side files a response brief. And then you just wait.
So I want to talk. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about real fast. When you get the appellate case in, the deadlines are very strict, very tedious. Yes. If you screw it up, you're done. That's one. But then two, you got to get the record, and you got to get both the court's record, which is the reporter's record, which is the testimony, and then, like you said, the clerk's record, which are the exhibits, and then you got to go through it, right? You kind of have to go through that, and you have to determine what's a viable appellate issue.
And normally I have a pretty good idea. Just look at the decree and kind of what the clients told me.
Right.
I have a pretty good idea kind of what the issues are. Now,
Right.
sometimes it doesn't flow through 100%,
Right,
but,
yeah, 100%,
but you
yeah.
have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
I've already done had a couple of appeals where I looked at it and I was like, told the clients, like, I'm happy to take your money, but
Right.
you know,
You're not gonna win.
You're not going to win.
Yeah.
She said, I don't care. I want to appeal anyway.
And it's a thing too, Jimmy, where it's like you don't just appeal. Hey, I don't like the ruling. Right. This isn't a thing where you say I didn't get what I wanted, so I want to appeal.
Yeah.
The judge just got it wrong.
Right.
We hear that a
Right,
lot.
right.
Yeah.
The judge
Oh, yeah.
got it wrong.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
And maybe they did, but an appeal isn't the way you fix that. Right.
That's correct. That's correct. And you know, and also for particularly kid cases, it's the standard is abuse of discretion. That's a hard burden to overcome.
Yeah.
In property cases, it's easier to overcome that, but I mean, it's just hard, but unless it's something that's really egregious.
And the thing is, I talk about it with my clients all the time. I talk about the D word, discretion.
Yes.
Right. And it's country mile wide. Like they've got a ton of discretion to do things, and the law says that they got to make certain findings to do things.
Yep.
But oftentimes those findings are created after the fact,
Yes,
right? They're not
yes,
created.
they're not on the record.
Right,
I don't
yeah,
find that. Right.
yeah.
It's just put in the order.
And oftentimes what happens is you get you have the hearing, you do the things, you request the findings of fact and conclusions of law, and then those findings are suddenly made after the fact to support the ruling.
And I think a lot of people think, well, the judge is going to sit down and explain the ruling. Well, no. About 99% of the time, it's the winning party does it.
Right.
And the judge almost always just signs it.
Yes, 100%.
And so people don't, well, how can that happen? That's
just the way
it works.
It's the way it works.
Yeah.
And so tell me, I want to get back to something you said because as someone who has multiple cases on appeal right now,
Always.
Right. It's one of those things where you file the appeal, you do the stuff.
Yeah.
Tons of work right up front. Yeah. Like you said, you got 30 days, sometimes maybe 60 days to get it done.
And 30 or 60 days might sound like a long time, but
when you do other things too. I mean, you're having to work around.
Right. You've got
your other
clients and
cases.
cases.
But that goes by pretty fast.
Very quickly.
You get that done. You file your brief. They file the response. Maybe another round of that if need be, and then you wait.
Yeah.
And the wait, I'll tell you this. I recently had one come back. It took them 14 months.
Oh, that's not a record.
That's not a record.
No.
So what is
What is the
what's the
record?
typical wait that you see?
It's about probably 12 to 18 months,
Right.
but I've had ones that take more than 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And, so it's, and most of the time I request oral argument.
Right.
And they almost always deny.
Right.
Which is,
Yeah.
And that's okay, because I always feel like, quite frankly, first I don't think oral argument adds a whole lot.
Right.
And so I do think that I don't want to be arrogant. I think my briefing is probably better than most people's.
Well, and you feel like having done it, too. I'm putting my best arguments on paper. Yeah. It's not like I'm just going to write some stuff and then go make the oral arguments, right? Which sometimes is counterintuitive to what you do in at the trial level, right?
Yes.
The trial level,
Right.
you kind of say, hey, generally, we're going to do this. And you get in there, you got a lot of real specificity in your argument. On the appeal side, you're laying it all out in writing right then and there. So
now, occasionally, a oral argument. Gosh, I can't remember the last oral argument I did, but I did one where Judge Hayes was on the other side. Mm-hmm. They filed a lawsuit material to keep my guy from changing schools and all he was entitled to, and then after the school, right before school started. So then soon as school started and my mom put him in a different school, then they dismissed it.
Oh, really?
And so I hit them hard. It's one of those things you kind of come up with you kind of have an epiphany sometimes.
Yes, yeah.
So preparing for the argument, it's like 1 week lawsuit.
Yes.
it's a 1 week lawsuit, and man, I hit on that hard argument.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning.
Yeah.
But that's not very often.
I was going to say that is very rare.
That one thing.
That you just come up, you just have that thing that just resonates.
Oh yeah, 100%.
What do you tell clients when you tell them, okay, you have to pay this money and we're on these very strict deadlines and we have to do all these things, and then you sit and wait and they call 3, 4, 5, 6 months later? How do you get them through the appeals wait?
Well, occasionally people do call, and I'll look up, go to the website and look up kind of where they're. It's just we just have to wait. We have to wait.
Yeah. And there's really no other way to do it. And, right. You gotta kind of keep track, and that wait is a long time.
Yeah.
And there's really the thing that people should know is we have zero control.
Right.
Yep.
1, of the wait. 2, the only way we know about the wait is to go on a website and look, or you can call the court, and the clerk's and they're super nice.
Yes.
The Court of Appeals, super nice, super professional. But
you
that's
can
it.
Look on the website, and you can check your cases, and you can see where they're at. And, and a lot of times a short case. I had a case not too long ago that was a default judgment against a guy who was in jail. Mm-hmm. So they turned that around pretty quickly. Mm-hmm.
Right.
As opposed to some of the thorny ones.
Right. The thorny ones.
Yes.
I like that.
I had one time where we were not the appellant, and the other side had messed it up so badly that the Court of Appeals actually had to go in and basically break out his one singular appeal into multiple appeals because it had multiple cause numbers. It was a protective order, and so then we had all these. So you had all these other pieces, and it literally took so long because they had to break it all out. It can become very convoluted, very very quickly. And by the way, the third part of that is we only find out that they've made a ruling or done anything when we get it in our inbox. Yeah, that's it.
That's
there's not it's going to be here next week. Look for it. It's like you're just sitting there hanging out, and suddenly it's in your inbox, right? Yeah. And there's nothing better than that. Click on it and read it immediately, right? Yes. You're trying to go as fast as you can to get to the end.
And the other thing too, people are like, I have somebody now. He's like, we need, I've got proof that my wife was lying in the trial. Can we get that? Can we bring that to the Court of Appeals? I said, well, first, the records have been filed, the briefs have all been filed.
So it's over.
No. And also, people, it's like think of an appeal. It's a snapshot of what happened at trial.
Yeah,
it's a snapshot, and you can't really add anything later.
Yeah,
kind of no matter what happens.
Right.
And so people have sometimes. But when I explain it kind of like that, it's kind of a snapshot.
Right.
I think that resonates.
That resonates. They get that.
Yeah.
Let's talk real fast about what happens when you win the appeal, because I think this is I talk to clients all the time about the way that I approach it anyway. Sure. So I talk to clients, maybe we have some appellate issues, we need to draft an appeal, we do things, and we talk about this whole process that we went through, and they're like, okay, I'm on board. And I'm like, okay. But then when we're successful, you need to be aware of what's about to happen. Yeah. So tell.
Well, and usually people ask about, when you appeal, does it go back to the same judge? Right. And that's the kicker, right?
Right.
And in Travis County, it's kind of unknown. Sometimes you can end up with a different judge. Yeah. Obviously, in other counties that we practice in, you're going to go back to that same judge.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And if that judge really hated you,
right,
it's not probably going to be very pretty the second time around.
And absolutely.
And not only did you weren't, how do I say this politely? You don't feel like you got the fair shake the first time. Then you told that same human they were wrong, and now you want them to give you another fair shake.
They were wrong, and then gave them the roadmap to do it the right way, but still give the same ruling.
Yes. And I don't really worry. Some people aren't you afraid to piss off the judge? I said, well,
they're pissed off anyway.
I mean, they're doing their job. I'm doing my job.
100%.
And I've only had one judge fuss at me after I got a case reversed. It was Suzanne Covington.
Yeah.
Right So I went, when she was retiring, I got her divorced a couple weeks before that. I I always like Suzanne. So I went and talked to her. I was visiting with her. She said, don't you think the court got that wrong? I said, Judge, no. I'm not going to tell you yes. No.
I'm not going to side with you. I won. Give me my win, Judge.
Yeah.
Give me my win. That's awesome.
But that's the only judge that's ever
fussed at you.
Ever fussed at me or even mentioned it.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Yeah.
I want to get into something real fast. That I think it's important that particularly, people that are watching that sort of stuff, that are going through divorces, going through child custody cases, and really going through the litigation process. Yeah. The appeal is set up by what happens at trial.
Yes.
And you don't just get to, like we said earlier, you don't get to go in and say, I don't like this ruling.
Yeah.
Or the other side lied. Yeah. Or that, I didn't get this one piece of evidence in or whatever. At trial, you got to have a lawyer that understands what it means to not just go litigate, but kind of do what you said earlier about you kind of got to be able to have the tact to tell the judge, respectfully, you're wrong, or at least I disagree with you. I'd have to make an objection. Yeah. I have to get a ruling, right? And I have to continue to hold that line the entirety of this case, all while also trying to get a favorable outcome for your client, right? Yeah. So it's not, a lot goes into that, right? Yeah. It's one.
And a lot of times too, I mean, I'm not very aggressive with judges.
Right.
Which I always think is a real bad move. But
right.
Still.
Right.
But, I don't mind telling the judge I disagree with him.
Right.
And, occasionally I go over the line a little bit.
Right.
It's okay.
Well,
it's okay.
But,
I mean, because,
but you have to. I think, and it's not, for me, first of all, by the way, I don't know about you, but no one teaches you how to do this.
Yeah, that's right.
There isn't a class in law school. There isn't a CLE on how to appropriately tell the judge that they're completely wrong.
Yeah.
There's things about preserving the record, which I get, but what you and I are really talking about is those instances where it's like, I think you're getting it wrong, and that's okay, right? It's okay. Yeah. This happens.
Yeah.
But then how to articulate not only you're wrong, but I got to have a record.
Yeah.
And so sometimes for me, what I do, I try to anyways, is say, I understand. I hear you. I hear you, Judge, and I appreciate that. I really do, but also appreciate that I need to make this objection, and I sometimes I tell them, and I know you're going to overrule it, or you're going to sustain whatever. I get that, but I have to do it on the record so I can do it, and then we can move on. Right? We can move on from that, and I think most of the time they understand that. Every once in a while, I'll get judges kind of give me that look, like like I'm being.
Are you really going to do this?
Right.
Where are you going with this?
I have to do my job,
and I have to do it right. But that's part of what it is. Yeah. But my point is, I think it's really important is that, particularly for those that are watching and that sort of stuff, the appeal is set up by what happens at trial.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have competent counsel at trial,
you're in trouble.
The appeal is much harder,
yes.
Right? Because you can't just make the objections at that time. If you didn't make it at trial, oftentimes they're waived in most instances. And so, do you find that that's a common? Well, how common is that for you? I guess
it's relatively common.
Yeah,
because most family lawyers they don't know anything about appeals,
right?
And they don't know anything about preserving error,
right?
Making sure things get done. They're just like they're like
right here,
right here,
right,
on the outcome. And so a lot of times you get to the end and they've kind of mucked it up.
Mucked it up. Yeah,
absolutely.
But like I said, not always, but or they muck up part of it and not the other part.
The important part.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I don't blame them because they're trying to win the case for their client.
Yeah,
and they're not. Of course, a lot of times people think, well, I don't need to preserve error. I'm not going to lose.
Right.
Well,
right.
Whoops. Whoops.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in there and I'm trying to perfect the record.
Yeah.
And I know fairly positively, like I feel fairly certain.
Yeah.
My client does not have the wherewithal or the means to appeal this.
It's a fine line.
Right. It's you know, and even if they are going to appeal, is this really an appellate issue that's really going to, you know, it falls under discretion, right? I kind of know that in real time, right? But you still got to do it. And I find a lot of times if you do it, it also signals, I think at that point, maybe to the court, and maybe to the other side. I know what I'm doing here, right? And we're going to need to do this the right way, and y'all can still get the outcome you want. But if you're not going to do it the right way, right, then I'm going to at least preserve my client's ability to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I find too. I'll say this real fast. I say this a lot. I'm always impressed when I get a judge on the bench who's really understands what's going on and understands that because of their discretion, if they do the things they're supposed to do, it is very difficult to overturn them in family law. And you see it sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think we've talked about this before. You're sitting there at trial and you're moving along and you start realizing that the judge has granted every one of your objections.
And at first you're like, I'm crushing it.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah.
And then you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, you're like, ooh,
this is so I can't undo this.
This is bad. This is
Exactly right. Yeah.
and then you get in your head, right? You're kind of like, let's see if we can get away. It's anyways. It's interesting. All right. I told you this was going to be easy. This was easy. See,
Piece of cake.
Yeah, this is easy. All right. So first and foremost, again, thank you for coming and being a part of what we do. The Vaught law firm has been around since how long now?
About 15 years.
15
I think.
years.
Yeah.
And in 15 years, you've got 44 years of experience, double board certified. The Vaught law firm has been around and been a staple here in the Austin area, and we are greatly indebted, and more importantly, we are so excited to have you come be a part of our law firm and continue doing the things that you're doing. I think the thing that we sent out was stronger together, and I think that's really important because what you provide for us is a level of legal representation that takes us above and beyond. Now we not only have the ability to do from prenup and do the litigation and do everything else, but do the appeals in-house. And be able to coordinate that from the trial level all the way through the appeals process. Yeah. So
I just want to tell you, I'm very excited. Okay, I'm very excited. Like I said, you and I have had cases against each other. Yeah. It's always been a pleasure, but I'm really excited to be joining y'all.
Well, we appreciate it. We're honored to have you here, Jimmy.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much. We look forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. I told Jillian she's over the moon about it, so that's a whole thing there too.
Yes.
So with that being said, let's get out of here. You want to get out of here? Get out of here. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thanks you for watching. I wanted to tell everybody that is kind of following along here at home as well. We are super excited about Jimmy coming over and being with us, but more importantly, y'all need to pay attention and watch out for us as we move forward. We intend to continue to not only do what we've done in the past, but continue to help people moving forward with all the family law things that throughout the state of Texas. And so with that being said, keep following along. Episode 27 coming down the line here in a little while next week. With that being said, Jay, tell them.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next Friday.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.